Hello and welcome to Greg's Workshop. What you're about to see next is a video collaboration I made with Chris over at Chris and Alex Models. Just imagine if you're a subscriber of mine, you're probably a subscriber over there, but if you're not, please go visit him. And if you've already seen it over there, there's no reason to see the rest of this video as it is the same as what he is hosting. Thank you and enjoy. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Chris from Chris and Alex Modelling. Now this is a bit of a different video. This is a bit of an international one where we're going to try something completely new, where we're going to do some reviews on products. This one will actually be on fillers. It's just the first thing we thought of to give this type of video a go, where we're going to run this one in the UK and we're going to go over to the US for Greg. And Greg, can you just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Greg. I don't know. My subtotal credentials are I run a YouTube channel.
Okay. How long have you been doing? How long you been doing it, Greg?
My YouTube channel probably a month and a half.
Okay.
I've been modeling and doing stuff for my whole life, but I actually haven't been doing plastic modeling though up until fairly recently. Since I did some when I was a kid, teenager, up like till I graduated from college, then I quit and started back here recently.
Right. So we've got, let's say, someone else's point of view on, obviously, this one, fillers, to see what he thinks, what he actually uses. And I've got a selection here in front of me, but we don't always use them. We bought them and never even opened the packets on half of them. But yeah, it's always the same, isn't it? Yeah, oh, that sounds good, and you get something that works and you just stick to it.
Oh yeah, I do the same thing here.
You know.
And several of these I bought, and then I went to the short answer, right? CA glue most of the time, so I don't use others.
Right. Well, we'll go over to you first.
Occasionally.
If you pick the first one, right, what's your least favourite? We'll start off at least favourite. What you found doesn't work that people have.
Well, the one I just started testing here is this Liquitex Professional Modeling Paste. I bought this on a whim when it was on sale from Jerry's Artorama here. They had a sale over the New Year. I bought this, and I was getting ordered from them because it was, I think, it's like a $20 thing, and it was, I don't know, $4 or $5. It's probably a great paste for some stuff, but I don't know what you would do with it modeling-wise. So a couple of things I did here on my test is to see if there was any adhesion. There's like zero adhesion. I pulled it right off. It scrapes, but I can crumble it with my fingers, so it's not going to be good for a whole lot of stuff. Some of these other ones I've got are going to have similar filling properties for filling a large area without the crumbliness of that. So that's probably my least favorite.
Right, now we'll go over to one that I only actually tried it today. Bought it some time ago from Art Supplies, and it's modelling paste. Thought that sounds good. It was nice and cheap, and I took the top off, had a quick look. It's very, very fine, but I've tried it today, and to tell you the truth, it doesn't dry hard. It stays slightly flexible, which, to tell you the truth, when you're trying to rub something down, the last thing you want is it being rubbery. So at the end of the day, it's not that good, really.
Yeah. I think when we were talking earlier, we thought that this stuff, this Liquitex and that, were similar. Not exactly the same, but similar.
Yeah.
Except that this dries hard instead
Now,
of soft.
with this, I have actually read the I read the back after I bought it. I've had it about 6 months, and I've decided to read what it says. It has actually got acrylic paint in there. You can buy it in different colours. That's actually why, I'll just show you, it's actually got on the front white. And it must be the acrylic paint that's stopping it drying. Because it's nice and it's like cream, but to tell you the truth, it's useless, so don't even go there. It's not worth it. So I've just found a problem. Let's see if we can solve it. Because we're not doing this on Hangout, it's not going to reverse the image. So my image is going to
I can reverse my image.
I can, but I've just got to... I'm on screen capture, so if I change screens, it'll capture the changed screen. Slight technical hitch here. Let's see if we can. Okay,
I'm
we'll go on to your
testing
for your second one.
stuff here. So these are like super glue and stuff. No, buddy. I got to find something a little more abrasive here. It won't make any difference.
Hopefully. Yes, we're the right way around anyway now, so. Okay. Do you want to go for the second one, or?
Okay. Sure.
Do you want
Unless
me
you
to?
want to edit. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find entertainment for William so he doesn't interrupt her. Someone will be doing it a third time.
Okay, no problem. Well, what I'll do the next one. I'll whack it onto me and I'll go for the next one. But I haven't tried. But in theory it should work. There are different ones, and to tell you the truth, I think, if I can find it, probably in the bottom drawer, this one here, which is super epoxy, which is for metal, ceramics, glass, plastic, fiberglass. There's several different versions of, that's 6-minute epoxy. That one is 20 minutes, but I think this one dries absolutely rock solid. It is a different formula in there, and to tell you the truth, if you've got a massive gap, this may work as obviously a strong glue and a filler.
Yep.
I haven't actually tried it, but might be worth a go if you're struggling. You've got no filler. 5-minute epoxy.
Yeah, we've got something similar here. We use sometimes in miniature modeling. It's plastic weld by JB Weld.
Yeah.
Probably very similar. This is a stick. It's like a plumber's putty.
Oh yes, that's
epoxy.
it's the same as milliput, I think.
It just stinks really bad, but it's great for filling really big gaps, indoor things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's this stuff here. It's hard. You can see it on my test. It's hard.
What sort of drying time do you get on that JB Weld?
I think it's about 10 or 15 minutes to be handleable. I don't think it says on it anywhere.
Oh right, that's not too bad, because milliput Tacks obviously a lot longer than that. It's
Yeah.
This one does anyway.
It's sandable now, and I put it on here really thick, but about 20 minutes ago maybe.
Yeah.
So.
See, you're more organised than I am. I haven't got any tests here done. I'm just going through them. So.
Yeah, you like my plates? They're plastic styrene from Sam's Club.
Are you having your dinner on them later?
I'm
going to clean them and have your dinner off them later.
No.
No.
Definitely not eating off these.
Go on then. You can pick. You can choose the next one.
Okay, so what else have I got here? I've got some Tamiya, which people might be familiar with. This is actually a pretty good one. I like it. It's got a nice consistency. You can thin it down if you need it thinned, thick.
Do you think? Do you think that
I do use this occasionally.
Do you think that with acetone or cellulose?
Cellulose style lacquer thinner.
That's going to be very similar to. It's going to be the same as this sort of. What do they class it as? It's a single pack body stopper for fine scratches in the automotive industry. It's going to be the same sort of stuff, I think.
Yeah. This is, so Bondo would be what we call it here in the U.S.
Yeah.
We've got that. I've got some in the garage.
Yeah.
This is a little finer, I think, than the Bondo. Well, I want to say finer. It's thinner-ish than the Bondo. It's not quite as tacky.
One thing they do say that I've noticed, they say glazing putty. Now, glazing putty in the UK is not the same. Glazing putty is... I don't know what the difference is. This is a problem between the American translation and the UK. What is glazing putty? Is it the same sort of stuff as Bondo?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I really don't.
Because
maybe we can find out and answer it in a comment somewhere.
Yeah. Because this does actually smell... You can smell the cellulose thinners in this,
yeah.
Can't you?
You can in the Tamiya, too.
Yeah, I gotta say...
It smells just like if you sprayed auto body paint.
Yeah. The good thing with this is... I'll whack it on my screen so you can see it if you're in the UK. This was the cheapest one. I think this was about £7, but to tell you the truth, £7 compared to... What are these? £4.50, £5? The advantage with this,
Oh, yeah.
you know, the automotive one is far better. It sticks better. You know, this actually like fuses itself into the plastic, having this cellulose in there. It is, you know, it is very good. It does take longer to dry, and I tend to rub it down wet. If I'm, you know, I'm too impatient for it to dry. If you rub it down wet, you can get away with it without it being absolutely solid.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, you can do something like that with this stuff too. I wonder if it says on it anywhere, but you can get this anywhere. It says, yeah, you thin it with Tamiya lacquer thinner on it.
yeah, yeah.
Got all kinds of fun warnings on it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Don't eat it, whatever you do.
Yeah. But, you know,
Oh, yeah.
I think this is
good.
one of the better
This
ones.
is good and sticky, and that is probably too. And it's probably a lot cheaper than this.
Well,
This-
yeah, it would work out a lot cheaper. That's why I bought
Hobby
this.
shop prices.
The advantage is with this, like I've done, I use Tamiya bottles, some empty ones, and I mix it with thinners in different ratios. So I've got standard, and then I've got a medium and a thin, depending on the application. And the thinner you thin it, the quicker it dries anyway. So if you've got fine scratches, thin it down with cellulose or acetone. It doesn't take too long to dry. It does feather off really well. So that is a very good one.
And at least Tamiya stuff, I'm sure that is too, is quite adhesive. You can break it, but it's like it bonds the plastic. Actually bonds to the plastic. So
yeah, the
that
cellulose
way.
must actually eat into the plastic, doesn't it? It you know, it's like it's a glue.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
a glue. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely one to recommend, but expensive in a way. But you know, it does.
So when I not to skip ahead to the CA or the super glue, but
Yeah.
I use that more when the surface tension will work for me, and I use this if I've got a spot. I can't describe it better than that, where surface tension won't get me where I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just say, I'll use this if I've got like a scratch or some of the seams. Oh, I've done it on one today. I'll put it away, the truck. I could have probably, initially I assembled it. I'd got a bit of a seam line. I went over it with Sino, with baking soda, sanded it down, and then just after I'd primered it, this was after I'd primered it, I used this stuff. This, you know, will work really good after you've primered. Well, that's what you use it in the automotive trade anyway. You can use it after primering. So if you've primered, that's a good one just to get surface scratches out.
Yep.
Another one similar to that, while we're on the subject, is this one, which is P38, or it's your 2-pack car body filler. Just standard 2-pack hardener and stinky resin.
Yep.
Quite quick drying. What is it? It's probably about 20 minutes, half an hour. If you've got a disaster or you need to reshape something, I've got an application for this probably on the Defiant, where I've got to reshape the nose. The options are P38 or Milliput.
And that should build up real thick and nice, right? So
Yeah, Milliput just takes longer to dry. This stuff, it doesn't crack. Well, it's designed for car bodies, so it's quite quite strong.
I would assume it's probably cheaper than the Milliput too. Then.
No, not well.
Not really?
Milliput's about £3. The price on there is £4, so probably like for like, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It's just
Not too bad
quicker.
then.
It's easier to sand. I don't think Milliput's that easy to sand. Not this one anyway. I have the standard yellow and grey. I know there's 3 or 4 different ones. Whether there's a difference, I'm not sure. I say bought this. I have used it, but I found it takes a lot longer to dry than car body filler, and it's harder to sand. Clogs up the sanding sticks. Car body filler doesn't. So that's another option. But downfall with both of those, they're both stronger than the actual styrene that you're trying to rub down.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a compromise. They're very strong, but you'll tend to rub the plastic away before the filler if you're not careful, and make a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So,
You have that's the problem with a number of the fillers. So.
yeah, so that's what you have to weigh up. Last resort, they will get you out of it. I have used them if it's quite a large area that you want it to be really strong and your acrylic putties that you buy for the models, they're just not up to the job for reshaping things. They're fine for small, for seams and scratches, but if you're trying to reshape, that's the way to go.
Yep.
Okay, Greg, you'll go again.
Okay, I've got some Vallejo here. This was $4 US, so let's see here, whatever that translates to in pounds, probably $2.50 or so. This stuff is acrylic. It's not like all the Vallejo products. It's not got a real strong adhesion. It just kind of pops off. So generally, I don't use it. It was probably the first one I bought back here in the hobby. And the only thing I liked about it is the tube nozzle is really fine. So sometimes I can get it into a spot, or put a really fine bead into a spot there. My hand was shaking too much, like on the corner of a wing that is otherwise too painful to do any other way. And it doesn't smell, but it's got to go into just the right spot because it doesn't have a lot of adhesion. You sand it, it just kind of comes right off, and it clogs up your sanding stick too. So
while you're on about nozzles, right? I don't know whether you've found things like this. Squadron, also perfect plastic putty. I don't know whether you use it. The tops, if you take them on and off several times, don't seal, and then the stuff starts going off in the top. These are prone for it. You'll never use the Squadron, the whole of the tube. You'll use half of it. It's gone off on the top because they don't seal themselves back off. Perfect plastic putty has the same problem. It comes with a nozzle. You screw the nozzle on, it dries in the nozzle. So you can't get it out the nozzle. You're forcing it out, cutting the nozzle back. I gave up with a nozzle and kept putting the top on, but over time it strips the thread, and then you'll open it and it's gone off. If you poke things in to try and clear it, you're putting all the dried
you push the jump
inside, So what I actually do now, I empty the actual tube into a Tamiya pot and use it out of a Tamiya pot. Exactly the same with the Squadron. That happens to be, let's swap screens so they can see. That's perfect plastic. That's Squadron green. Now the Squadron green has gone quite hard, but all you do is drop some acetone or cellulose thinners in there, give it a mix, good as new.
One thing I'd say about the Tamiya while we're on that subject is, with this, it skins over and dries fast enough that if I leave the top off and try and work off the end of the tube, it'll actually dry out while I'm working. And I've found that the best way to use it is to put a piece of tape down like you would with super glue, put a little dab down, put the cap back on really quick. The cap stays on tight enough to keep it from going off, but the stuff itself goes off so fast on the tip that you don't want it open for that long.
I can't even get the top back on this bloody Squadron now. I'm going to have to empty it down into another container. It just builds up. You probably can't see, but it just builds up round the top in the threads. Because they're only aluminium, it sort of like destroys them, and the top's just not going back on there. I'll have to decant it into a container.
So one of the things that I ran into when I was first coming back into with the Squadron stuff, what's the difference between white and green?
The texture. The green is is coarse. The white is fine.
Yep. They don't tell you that on the bottles. You need to know that.
Yeah, I say I always have white now. Originally I had the green. That's all I've got left of the green. Both of them are extremely quick drying. You've got to work them quite quickly, otherwise it's just a mess. You end up with like bird crap everywhere all over your model, because as you're trying to applicate it, it's dry, which is really good if you're in a rush. It dries quick, but it's hard to get it neat, especially like down seams. Nightmare job. Wing roots.
Yep.
It's just, but
now I wish I'd bought some. I didn't buy any because I sort of knew what you thought of it, and I had other things I liked just buying. I almost wish I'd bought some so I could have compared it to the Tamiya for speed.
Extremely quick. Extremely quick. Yeah. What you want to do to make it more usable is just thin it out, like I do. Put it in a bottle, bit of thinners, acetone, give it a mix, and make it so it's creamy. Because it dries so quickly, you need to thin it down to give you a bit more working time.
Yeah.
It does slow the drying process down. You have to be careful, otherwise it takes forever to dry if you put too much in. But I do like it once you've got the hang of it. But trying to use it out the tube, it just dries so quick. But one thing with it, it doesn't sink like the acrylic ones. You know, I think
that's actually important on these. Like the JB Welds, I don't think sink.
Mm-hmm.
The Tamiya sinks just a little bit.
Yep.
I don't know if the Liquitex does or not.
You'll probably find all the 2-pack stuff, milliput, car body filler, your epoxies, probably don't sink much at all, if any. Whereas the cellulose ones probably will a slight bit, as the actual like the catalyst is evaporating as the thinner's coming out. It probably will. But the worst ones are acrylics. I don't care what, they all sink.
Yeah.
Especially
so
if you're painting.
What we're talking about here is when you put it on your model and let it dry, the solvent actually disappears out of the material, and it leaves if you were to put it on flat, it would actually leave a divot, so it wouldn't be completely filled up. So when you go ahead and put the filler on, you need to put a little extra filler on and then come back and sand it off.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so that is the downfall with air drying products.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the same as your paint. It looks on really thick until it's dry, and once all the solvents have evaporated out of it, there's not a lot left on there, and you know, all your panel lines come back through. But you think you've buried them at the time. Primers are a classic for that. You'll put a heavy coat of primer and you think you've buried everything, but once it's dry, it just appears again. So yeah, so that's the Squadron ones. I say they are good, but I tend to thin them a little bit. Right, do you want to go for the next one? I've got a couple left.
Do you have any other besides super glue?
Okay.
Because I think I'm down to super glue.
Okay, well, perfect plastic putty. This is even I did when it first came out. It's brilliant. Yeah, it has got some real good things going for it. It's water soluble, so you can clean it up, so you don't make a mess with it. Easy to apply, doesn't smell. It's not really cheap, unfortunately. Downfall is it's not that strong. Another thing that you might have found this, and don't normally mention it, just say, but when you've done a seam along the top of an aircraft and you've lost the panel lines, you'll come to rescribe the panel lines in, and it can be a nightmare if you've used acrylic putties compared to things like Squadron or because what it is, this is so soft, the actual scribing tool just digs straight into it. So you don't get an even scribe. You hit the centre, and it'll just dig straight in and look a right mess, and you end up filling it again.
Almost like if you were using a plaster Paris or something on there.
Yeah, it is. That is the downfall with it, and it does sink over time. Definitely. I've painted enough models, and I've used this. I think this is about my 4th one of these in 12 months, so I have used it enough. I'll only use it now for scratches or something very minor. If it's a bad seam line, I won't use it because I know it will sink. And we tend to build quite quickly, so it may not have sunk by the time we've painted it, but I'll guarantee 2 weeks down the line we've got an audible seam there, so it's got its uses.
That's pretty bad, and that's something to definitely be aware of with it.
One thing that you do find, and we have found over time, depending on what paint you're using, does make a lot of difference, and primers. If you use an acrylic like this, and you use an acrylic paint, it will sink into it. But if you're using enamel paint over it, it's like putting a clear coat over your paint. It puts a barrier for it not to sink into it, because obviously, because it's water soluble, if you put paint on that's got water in it, it actually dissolves it, doesn't it, if you think about it?
Yeah.
But if you put a cellulose or a 2-pack paint over it, it's not going to absorb any moisture. There's no moisture in it to reactivate it to make it sink. So it does pay to use different primer and paint to the actual filler that you're using. It does stop some of the sinkage. or just put clear over it, or we use a cellulose primer, so we're actually putting a barrier before we put the actual acrylic paint over the top, so that in theory it doesn't sink so bad now. So, but clean-up wise, brilliant. For awkward places to get to, like wing seams and that, you just put it on quite neat anyway, with a cotton bud or tools, whatever. It will wipe off with water, and there's no need to fill it, so it has got its uses. I still do use it, just don't use it for major filler work anymore.
Yeah.
You can go through the superglue one.
All right. So superglue, that's, I think, is the filler of choice.
Yeah.
I've got, at least for the two of us. So after I discovered superglue filling, I haven't gone back. I do use some of the others, like occasionally, like I mentioned, but I don't use much other than superglue anymore. So superglue here in the States comes in generally three kinds: super thin, or real thin, medium gap filling, which is 5 to 15 second, and 10 to 25 second. I bought the hobby shop stuff because it's the cheapest here. It's cheaper here to buy it in my hobby shop, 1 ounce of it, than it is to buy it at the dollar store in a tube. I know that's not true elsewhere. I think, in fact, it's not true for you. I think you can get it cheaper in your dollar store, pound shop, I guess it is.
Yeah, I think we get, this is about £4, 14 grams.
Yeah.
You get 5 of these for £1, and those are 7 grams.
Yeah.
There's a big difference in that respect.
Yeah, these are the off-brand. They're not like Zappa Gap or anything. They're just from the local hobby shop. But this particular label, you can find this label. The 3 labels. You can, if you go look at pictures on U.S. hobby shop sites, they'll have them and they'll be labeled for whatever they are. There's somebody that manufactures this specific one, and then the different shops just put their own label on it. And this is 1 ounce for, I think, $4 to $5 at my hobby shop, and an ounce is 28 grams. So, that's fairly cheap. Anyway, so what you do with these is you squirt a little bit out onto a piece of tape, get yourself some tape, and squirt it out on it, and just fill your gap with it. I've got a couple here to show.
If you're going to put it onto tape, your blue, I can see what you're using, the blue thingy tape there,
Yeah.
or Tamiya masking tape. It absorbs it, so be careful. If it's standard cheap masking tape, it will absorb it. Well, that's waxy, isn't it?
This.
Yeah.
And I use this because it's cheaper than my Tamiya tape.
Yes.
But it's expensive. It's expensive masking tape. Right. And then you just put some on there and go to town with it with your toothpick or whatever your applicator is. It's super glue, so it's got some incredible adhesion, right? If you want to join a couple pieces together, that's, after all, what it's for. But what you do with it is you go ahead and get yourself some baking soda, although I've used cornstarch in the past, and I think Chris was saying he uses chalk, so various things.
Talcum powder, that'll do it as well.
Talcum powder, yeah. I think pretty much any powdery substance will. The nice thing about the soda and the talcum powder is they're easy to get fine like that. You can get a nice fine amount right over a seam like this. So you just take some, put it on there, and then stick it on your material, and then knock a little powder over it. I usually use one of these. These are clay sculpting tools. I got a pack of them for $10 from Amazon, like 15 of them or something. And so I usually put it on with that because I control it really easy as I knock down the line. Can't do it here, of course, when I'm doing it on camera, but I can knock it down a real fine line of super glue to follow it, for example. And then that sets it off instantly. And it also seems to, whatever the powder is, seems to make the super glue softer. So when you come back to sand it, the super glue by itself is actually harder than the plastic, I think. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's not recommended without putting something in it, because, as you say, it's too hard, isn't it?
Yeah, but you put some powder in it, then, like the baking soda, for example, then it makes it much softer. Then it's similar to the plastic to sand it. Very similar. What else on super glue? I don't know. It's so anyway, you use the different thicknesses, and you can actually take it's got viscosity and it's got surface tension. So if you have a scratch going down your paper, I wish I'd had a scratch here. And here, real quick, I'll make a scratch and try and do it. But if you've got a scratch and you're trying to fill it as you go along, you can actually use the super glue tension of it to put a bead right inside that crack.
What I'll do, sorry to interrupt, I don't know whether you've ever seen one of the, you know these that you used to use for TD and that, for technical drawing?
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried using these for super glue? They're absolutely brilliant for doing super straight lines and in scratches. You just dip it in the super glue. You can actually obviously adjust the width of the bead of super glue.
Yep.
You just follow the scratch and it just puts a perfect bead straight down the panel.
Yep. And if I'm not on camera, I can just take it like this and just sort of run right along it and drop it. I'll be actually in the groove now that I've practiced a little bit, rather than where you saw me put it on this first time. I put it on like this and it got all over the sides and stuff. You can actually run a bead down in your, I think that's sort of what Chris is talking about. Let me get a little less super glue in there. You can actually run a bead right, you probably can't see it on the camera. You can run a bead right down inside of your gap like that, tap some powder over it, and then you can tap the powder back off into your can. Is usually what I do. So I just put a bunch on and I tap it back off into my pan. And then you go away. And you can sand that now. If you didn't get it right, try again. It's beautiful because it's instant. And then it makes learning so much faster. Yeah,
I say that's one nightmare I think a lot of people have. If you've got to fill and you're waiting hours for things to dry, then you've got to do it again and again. Super glue, it's seconds, not hours, literally.
Yeah. It was me scribing that zero that finally convinced me on the super glue just completely. I described every line on that plane, and I was learning to scribe at the same time, so I was having a miserable time of it for a while. And this just, there's probably more super glue in that wing than there is wing left, but it works really good.
Yeah. Another applicator for super glue that I find really good are, you're bound to get some sooner or later, airbrush needles, because they're like quite highly polished steel. It runs off it quite well, whereas the cocktail sticks, toothpicks are wood. Mm-hmm. It tends to stick to it quite well. But I found when you bend your airbrush needle, don't throw it away. Use it as an applicator for super glue. It's very fine, follows the scratch, and it does capillary off it really well.
Yeah, it's one of the ones I didn't pull out, but I've got some dental picks. They're not quite as fine as airbrush needle, but same general idea.
Yeah.
We're getting into really, really fine spots. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then because they're metal, you can just wipe the super glue off of them. It doesn't coat onto them. I actually like my toothpick better after I've used it a little bit with super glue too, because the end of it eventually gets hard.
Yeah.
And you can band it, and the super glue runs off the toothpick better. So I kind of reuse my super glue toothpicks.
Right. I've got one thing left. Have you got any more left, or was that your last one?
No, super glue was it.
That was it. You kept the best one till last.
Oh, you got a really good one there, though.
This one here.
I'm going to make some of that.
Yeah, this is. It's been on a lot just recently, to tell you the truth, on a lot of channels. Is sprue glue. Now, it's got some brilliant advantages. Obviously, what you do, you make it yourself. I use Tamiya extra thin cement. The thing with this, what you'll tend to find is when you've got to probably a fifth, an eighth or so of it left, it's horrible colour and the brush doesn't reach the bottom. It's really annoying, you're having to shake it. That's when I'll tend to use it as sprue glue.
Yeah.
Now there's several things, I've done several different ones where I've used just normal sprue, which is like so. If I'm doing an airfix plane, I'll cut some as sprue up, put it into the Tamiya, leave it overnight, it ends up a right gooey mess, which is what you want. If it's Revell, I've done the same Revell. And I use this, I was using, for airfix, same colour, same styrene, so you end up with the same sort of result as the original plastic. But probably the better one is styrene sheet, because it's probably cleaner. It seems to work really well with all the plastics anyway. And all that you do, you get yourself, which I haven't got here, a sheet of styrene, cut it up into small little squares. You put it into the glue. It's an awkward one. You can have it to whatever thickness you want. If you, it is quite. You probably should see that. It is actually quite thick and gooey, but it's actually a glue and a filler at the same time. Obviously, because it's Tamiya, it will actually fuse to the parts that you're putting it to. It'll melt. It'll never come off. You won't. It don't matter what you do. It's there for good. But the advantage with it is actually self-leveling. And if you've got it on a flat panel, you'll put a blob, and when you come back, it's flat, totally flat, because it just, as it's actually curing, it just sinks. Just uses gravity and just sinks and makes it really, really good. But it's not the quickest thing in the world. If you have it quite thin, like I tend to, it does take a long time to go off, and I have been having to leave it overnight. I've used it on the Defiant when I've done a bit of body work on that. You'll see on one of the videos, and I've used this to double, well, probably triple the thickness of the actual wall, but it took 24 hours for the stuff to dry. So not ideal if you want to do something and, like we do, try and get a build in 24 hours. This is a bit of a no-no for that. But as far as it sticks, it sands like the rest of the styrene. If you do it like I did on my Spitfire, and you don't want to paint the model, you want it leaving in bare plastic. If you use the same plastic as the model, you can't even tell you filled it. Really good.
Well, there's a pro tip.
Yeah, let's say, did you ever see the that naked Spitfire that I didn't paint?
No, I've been meaning to go look for it, but I haven't yet.
Yeah, I built one, and purposely, I didn't want it to show any filler off, or it was going to be just polished styrene, and I actually used Airfix sprue in this glue. So any filling that needed doing, I just used this stuff, and obviously it didn't look like there was any filler there at all. So that's another good one, and it's cheap. It's relatively cheap. I think these bottles of Tamiya are about $3.50, so you're probably using a pound's worth of Tamiya and a pound's worth of styrene. So that's a couple of £1 to do probably a quarter of a bottle of this, but it is good stuff. Just not the quickest drying.
Since I haven't done it before, how much styrene do you have to Tamiya? How far does it dissolve?
It's very.
If I had a half a bottle, would that give me a good consistency?
Well, here, it's really hard to tell. This is a mixture, as you can tell. Well, you probably can't tell, but the colour's all over the place. There's bits of black and white and grey, and a bit of a mess. This one is. It's one of those ones where it's really difficult to say. I think it depends what styrene you're putting in, because you see this and that diameter, you go to another one, it's a bit bigger diameter, so you don't realise how much you're putting in there. All I'd say is it takes more than you expect.
Okay.
But I'll just...
The reason I'm asking is because I'm trying to work my jar down, then I'm going to make some, but I haven't got the jar down far enough yet.
I've never done it that it was that thick that I couldn't use it. You know, if you've got, say, a fifth of it or whatever, you know, when you get to the bottom and the brush just won't pick it up, you're having to shake it and it's a pain. I'd say fill it up more or less double to what the amount that you've got in there, you know, like 50-50, try there.
Okay. And
see what happens, but you think it's not going to dissolve, but it does. I think the fumes dissolve it more than anything once the top's on. You know, because it's stuck on the side and all sorts, but then when you go back to it, it's all gone. It's all melted at the bottom.
Yeah.
But, you know...
That's the job of this glue, right?
It's just not the quickest, unfortunately. And last thing, we have applicators. Oh, go on, sorry.
Before we go on, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
One of the tricks with the super glue that I found is a lot of times you'll have a gap right on the corner where a wing surface or a tail fin surface juts to the body. And it's almost impossible to fill that without a whole lot of work normally coming back in. But one thing you can do with the super glue, if you get it just right, is you can put the super glue in there, and the surface tension will actually mate the edge of the wing to the body on top and bottom everywhere. and the curve will look almost perfect, just right away. It handles those kinds of gaps just beautifully. So I just wanted to point that out because I forgot about it earlier.
Yeah, I've got to say one thing. I think with the whole of modelling is have an experiment, have a play. There's no real right and wrong, and just because you've done something for the last 15 years one way doesn't necessarily always mean it's the best. It always pays just to have an experiment.
Oh yeah, or because one of us on the internet told you so, right?
Yeah, yeah, just have a go. You'd be surprised. Some methods suit some people, some, methods don't.
And that's how everybody found these methods, right? I mean, somebody somewhere tried Future once.
Yeah.
Sometimes just spraying it on their model,
There'd only be one method if it was the only one and the best, wouldn't there? Really,
Right.
There's so many different methods of doing everything out there. It's because some suit some suit others, and that's it.
So experiment, find out what works for you, and then all we can do is, give you some places to start, right?
Yeah.
Some ideas to start with. So.
Yeah, we like superglue, but if you're heavy-handed and that, it can be a nightmare. If you've got it all over your model, you're in trouble. You need to be relatively neat at building.
And it took me some practice. Like I said, I had an entire plane's worth of scribe lines to practice on. I got lots of practice. So.
Yep.
And you've been building how many models a week?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
For how long? Yeah. So. All right. So, tools. So I've got a collection here, and I think Chris has some on his side.
Yeah.
The one I go to the most, honestly, is the lowly toothpick for most stuff, because it's cheap, easy, and it's there. So, and I've always got those on my bench. Next most often is probably one of these. Like I said, I've got a whole bunch of these. They're for sculpting clay. You can get them at your local craft shop or on the internet. I got a pack of, I think, 10 of them for $10 or $15 from probably Amazon. And they come in all kinds of different shapes. This one and this one happen to be my favorites for putting on putty. And these I won't use with super glue. These I use with other stuff, or I use them for putting powder onto the super glue to set it off. So those are really good too. What do you got? I got some more, but I'll give you a shot at a few. So I know you got some copy me.
Okay, well, we'll copy you with everything. Well, most of it anyway. There's only so many things.
There's only so many, right?
Yeah, there's the plastic one. These are obviously for clay sculpting, which super
probably
cheap.
Very similar to my metal ones.
Yes, let's say I have got the metal ones myself. Oh yeah, I've bought the pack as well because the pack is really good because it doubles up for putting filler on, and the pointed ones, if you regrind them, you can use them as scribers, which get into corners because they're 90 degrees and that. And so
yeah.
That pack's really good.
If you have a grinder, which I do too, these are a great source of two ends to grind off with your grinder to make anything.
Yeah.
They're cheaper, they're a pot metal, they're not as good as the dental pick ones, so they're easier on your grinder to get the shape you want. Whereas some of these dental pick ones are a harder material, just a better steel.
Yeah, so cheap is good sometimes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Right now with the stopper and also some of the perfect plastic, if I've actually thinned it down with water or acetone, an old paintbrush, you can actually paint it along the seam. It gives you, it's nice and neat. Sometimes with the applicators you can get a little bit messy. There are methods which we can go into in another video, if you can put up with it, and put it in the comments whether this is too long, boring, crap, whatever.
Yeah,
we'll take it into account. If you enjoy it and you think it's worthwhile and you've learned something, we can always sort some more out. And the other thing, and I know Greg uses them as well because he actually had to get his from the UK. So you can show them what it is.
Yeah, they're just plastic school glue applicators. They call it PVA glue in UK and probably the rest of the world. We call it white school glue here in the United States. They're these things, and they are more expensive at shipping than the things are. So I bought a 50-pack of them. I got a great big bag of it to get them in from the UK because I couldn't find them here in the United States for whatever reason. I just couldn't find them. So I imported them into the US. And these are good for. I don't actually like them all that much for putty. They're okay because they're nice and flexible, but I use them for everything else. You can regrind these with a sheet of cardboard and do all kinds of things with them. Cut them. They're just styrene, so they're great for all kinds of stuff. And I don't remember how much I paid for them anymore, but they're cheap.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think I have 20 because you can buy 20 cheaper than like 2 separate. They are ridiculously cheap. Yeah, I'm gonna say I've cut them into points and all sorts for getting into awkward positions. You know, they're so cheap. As you say, they can be a little bit flexible depending on what. If you're using acrylic glue, the acrylic putties, because they're so creamy and that, it's fine. Trying to put things like Squadron on, because it's quite stiff and dries quite quickly, that it's a bit hard to manoeuvre them, and you've got no chance trying to wedge milliput and things in. You know, you need quite a stiff applicator.
I keep 2 of them on my desk all the time. In fact, I got them out of my drawer. I destroy them and throw them away normally, but there are 2 that I keep. I've got one that's cut off on the end, so it's stiffer. And the end of this one is ground to just under the dihedral of most wings. So I can put sandpaper around it and sand in there. It's got to be a little bit tighter dihedral to fit in there real nice, but that's what that one's for. And this one's got a 45-degree angle on it, and it's longer. And I actually keep those and use those quite often. So I can use them for sanding, you can use them for smoothing, you can use them for all kinds of stuff. It gives me a flexible one and a stiff one. What else? I've still got a couple here. I occasionally use a knife. I've got a couple knives here. So I do use those for putty application every once in a while. Not real often, but if it's the thing that's handy, you know, it's quick and easy, and you always have your knife on your bench. And dental tools. And I think you mentioned using the technical lead holder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are these? Wood stirrers.
Oh,
like
the coffee stirrer. Yeah, the coffee sticks. Yeah.
Again, I don't use those because they're any good for it. I wouldn't recommend buying it particularly, but I use it because they're right there sometimes.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything going, more or less. Yeah. Between us, I think we've got everything.
Yeah. If you got questions, leave them in one of our channel's comments, and we'll try and get back to you on them.
Yeah, what we're going to try and do, we don't know whether it'll work, so you might not even see this, which means it's pointless me even telling you, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to try, because we're trying something new here. I don't know if it'll work. I'll put this up on the usual Chris and Alex modelling channel, and Greg's going to try and drop it up on his channel, so we're not quite sure when you'll be seeing this. It depends whether it works or not, and how long it takes to sort the software out. But hopefully it's worked. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. You've learned something.
And let us know if you like it, right?
Yeah, and we can always go through some other things, put some suggestions of things that you'd like. If this is a better method than just one person, where you can throw questions across and that. And we'll see what we can do in the future. Yep, so thanks a lot for watching. Yeah, and we'll catch you again soon.
Yep, bye-bye.